This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. I talked about how the Pope is planning on opening portals on Christmas Eve, that these holy doors inside of Vatican City are going to be open during what they're even calling a ritual. And as I was looking into this more to see which portals / doors they're going to be opening, I started to see that this topic has gone semi-viral, where a lot of people are discussing what's going on at Vatican City. And I wanted to do a video about it so that you could hear some of this information from me, and also to make sure that people have an understanding of some of the bizarre signs and symbols around Vatican City, specifically at St. Peter's Basilica. So if you haven't heard, okay, what they're doing for starters is they're opening 5 portals in preparation for this ritual that they'll be doing on Christmas Eve. They're even installing webcams at St. Peter's tomb for this ritual. Now, they're saying that this ritual has to do with the Jubilee. But if you look at some of the stuff surrounding it, even how they're calling it portals being opened, it's very, very skeptical. And of course, everybody out there should have an understanding, even if you're semi-awake, not fully awake, even 5% awake, of the Vatican's role in this New World Order. They are the top of the pyramid, side by side with Israel. They do not worship our Father in heaven. People should know this just by their fruits, just by how they behave, by the things that they endorse, by their connection to a lot of these global organizations like NATO that they're always involved in. And in fact, even this year, the Vatican, not only talking about how they were going to be the do-all, end-all for all types of signs and wonders in the sky, which tell us that they're going to be a major part of this great deception that is coming with Project Bluebeam and some of this bizarre stuff we've seen in the skies in 2024, including the Aurora Borealis showing up every single day. And of course, now some of the stuff we're seeing with drones up in the sky. The other thing that the Vatican has talked about is introducing artificial intelligence, which tells you, of course, that they're on board with AI governance. And if we take a look here at St. Peter's Basilica, some of this stuff is going to blow, I think it'll blow your mind, because I was not familiar with some of these things until I started to see some of this stuff involving what's underneath St. Peter's Basilica. And at the same time as this happening, of course, not by coincidence, there's a brand new video game where we see how they program people, right? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which part of the plot of the game is going underneath the Vatican. And underneath the Vatican, you find a lot of secrets of the giants, of the Nephilim, hidden underneath the Vatican. So I'm sure that's just a mere coincidence. So one of the basilicas being opened again is St. Peter's Basilica. And there's multiple entrances into St. Peter's Basilica. But specifically, they say the Pope will begin the ritual to commence the year of Jubilee on Christmas Eve, when he will open the first sacred portal at the northeast entrance to St. Peter's Basilica. The door was closed with bricks following the celebration of the Jubilee year of Divine Mercy in 2016. But the bricks were taken off the door on December 2nd in preparation for the ritual. And if you look up St. Peter's Basilica info, there's a website which, since I've started researching this over the last couple of days, this website used to show up #1 in Google search and has actually been buried to page 2 or 3 in a Google search, where you could find the maps inside of St. Peter's Basilica, inside of Vatican City, to see some of the stuff underground. So this is the website, stpetersbasilica.info. And if you go to the website, you'll see it kind of looks like a dated website where they have floor plan maps, the square, and many other things that you can click on, library, practical info. But St. Peter's tomb specifically is one of the portals being opened. And if you click on Necropolis, which is where it's located, okay, then you go to a page, right? The Vatican, Necropolis, inside of there. Hey, you want to take a tour? Here's some books we have. But there's a map of the necropolis. And if you click on that, what you'll see here is a map of what's inside and underground. And you'll find it very interesting, I'm sure, because I did. When you look at the areas inside of the necropolis, look at you, Lucifer. That's right, Lucifer. If you look on you, it literally says Lucifer. This is inside of the Vatican and underneath the Vatican where there are tombs. There's all sorts of, the red wall, the Shrine of St. Peter, the graffiti wall, Tomb R, Tomb S, and Tomb Lucifer, right? You click on it, the necropolis Tomb U, you could see here the actual image underground. This is underneath St. Peter's Basilica. And unlike other people who have been covering this topic, I'm not saying that Lucifer is residing in this tomb, because that does not match up biblically. I don't believe that Lucifer is sitting in a tomb. We know that Lucifer has been bound for 1,000 years, depending on where you believe we are in Scripture, which is a debate for other channels to have. Not this one, but if you think that Lucifer is currently bound, whether you think that he's not currently bound, either or, the Vatican has a tomb underneath it that has been named by the Vatican Lucifer's tomb. So I think it's something people should be aware of. And you could see underneath it, right? You see the present high altar, and then you see this red wall, right? Going all the way down. This is underground. It is underneath the Vatican, where there are altars underneath. And of course, why would they have altars underneath the Vatican? Why would they have tombs and these things underneath the Vatican? You might want to say, well, they have tombs because they put some of the popes down there, and they oh, okay. Well, why would they have altars underneath the Vatican? Well, I think we all know why, and we've been told in Scripture of some of the unimaginable acts that the wicked do underground, and some of the visions that people like Ezekiel had in the Bible. Ezekiel, the prophet, saw sacrificial rituals performed by the priests, various sacrifices on the altar. Ezekiel had visions of the Israelites worshiping other gods, including Tammuz. So obviously, if the church is going to have altars underground, it's not going to be because they're performing, the Holy Eucharist, or they're having some normal Catholic ritual take place. It's likely for the opposite. It's likely underground because you're not supposed to know that it's actually happening, and you will never know that it's actually happening, for the same reason that most of these Satanists in our world have underground cities and underground tunnels where they perform these acts and get away with it. So there are other things that make this just as bizarre of a story if you look at some of the signs and symbols around St. Peter's Basilica, okay? Vatican City, this is the coat of arms for Vatican City, okay? And there's a coat of arms for St. Peter's Basilica. And the coat of arms includes 3 bees, the symbol of papal authority, and the keys, a symbol of the keys to the church. But maybe they symbolize the keys to the bottomless pit. Because if you look at this symbol, which again, this is the coat of arms for St. Peter's Basilica, you'll notice that there are 3 bees right in the middle of that crest. And it actually looks like a bit of a dragon. If you look underneath the 3 bees, it looks like dragon's eyes. And I'm sure if you stare at it long enough, you'll start to see probably the Baphomet. But take a look at those 3 bees. They're important to note here because bees use hexagons to build honeycombs, right? Everybody knows about bees, right? And honeycombs, not the cereal, but honeycombs, where bees store honey and pollen, right? Okay, the hexagon shape, that is what the bees use to build these honeycombs. And a hexagon is the number 6. So you have 3 of those. So what does that mean? Well, it looks like it means 666. Why would they have 3 bees right on that crest? And of course, what I'm referring to is Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And some of the other coincidences, I'm sure, which when I say coincidences, I'm being sarcastic, is that a few months ago, if you didn't hear, the Catholic Church announced that they have a new mascot who happens to be named Lucy, as in Lucifer. I've covered the name Lucy before, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. These are all odes to Lucifer, these songs that they made very, very popular. The name Lucy is a short nickname for Lucifer. And for anybody out there, I think for the most part when this was announced, besides the fact that they're using an anime mascot, which is just creepy in itself that we have the Catholic Church using anime. But for anybody out there, even if you're not well versed in any of this stuff, when you hear the church using Lucy, the first thing you should think of is Lucifer, because it is Lil Lucifer, right? Like the musician uses the name. So is it a coincidence that Lucy is the Vatican's cartoon mascot for the Jubilee in 2025? Well, of course it isn't. So what am I saying is going on here? Well, I'm showing you what's underneath the Vatican. I wanted to show you the crest. I wanted to show you that there's actually a tomb listed on St. Peter's Basilica's website, a tomb of Lucifer. Do I know what's inside that tomb? No. Do I believe Lucifer is sitting inside of that tomb? I have the slightest idea. But what I do know is that when the Vatican comes out and tells you that they're doing a ritual, they were using terms, some of the terms out there never before done, right? The New York Post, Pope Francis opened 5 sacred portals on Christmas Eve for a ritual that's never been done before. And the fact that they're putting cameras inside, the Vatican, St. Peter's Basilica specifically, installs webcams inside of the Basilica. They want people to live stream this event, which I would highly recommend that you don't, but I wouldn't expect people who listen to my channel to be live streaming anything of the Vatican. And even when you see that article right there where it says Vatican installs webcam at St. Peter's tomb for next year's Catholic Jubilee, you'll notice on the left-hand side of the wall, there's even an upside-down crucifix right on the wall inside of the tomb. So Pope inaugurates live stream as part of efforts to connect with faithful around the world during Holy Year. So I'm not telling you not to live stream this because it's stupid or something along those lines. I'm telling you not to because you probably don't want to partake in this ritual with whatever's really happening that you might not see with your own eyes while it's occurring. Because I don't expect you to see Lucifer walk out of the tomb with Baphomet horns and say, "What's up?" But what I do expect is they're bringing forth something. And I think one of the most important verses in the Bible to remember, which is one that you probably won't hear mentioned very often at any church, because I don't know if they don't mention it because they don't know how to interpret it, but Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. The prince of the power of the air, Satan. And when I say prince of the power of the air, well, think about this. How is the webcam being presented to you? Well, it's being aired, right? They're saying, hey, they're airing the webcam. Oh, the air. Because they use the air, obviously, to transmit these messages, whether it's a phone, a television, a live stream. Somehow you're accessing this mysteriously through, obviously, magic, through the air. And who's the prince of the power of the air? They use the airwaves, not just as a method of mind control, but there's a reason that a lot of Christians before our generation refused the television, refused to go along with the advancements in technology, because they felt there was a spiritual attachment to what was going on with the television. There used to be big, talks about how when the TV, like in Poltergeist, when it would go static after a certain time in the night, and people would fall asleep and wake up, or if they wake up, the TV would be back on to normal if they woke up at like 8 o'clock, but from like 2 to 6 o'clock in the morning, they would just be getting a static signal. And we've seen that interpreted a lot through Hollywood with a portal or some type of an opening for entities to come in and out. So we know we're in the middle of a spiritual war. And the spiritual war being fought by the Vatican, well, that's being fought against actual Christians, because these people and the rituals that they're performing, I mean, there's so many things we could look at with the Vatican, but let's just recap everything I discussed in this video because there was a lot to take in. The Pope is opening spiritual portals. This is not wording made up by me. This is released from the Vatican. This is what they're talking about it as. Literally 5 sacred portals for a ritual that's never been done before. you could see the preparations being done, how they're hammering it in walls, right? The Vatican says, hey, we've also installed cameras so everybody out there can see this ritual because they want you to partake in this ritual. And they even show you in the thumbnail for the Vatican installing the webcams, the upside down crucifix. How much more in your face could it get? Now, specifically, it's going to be, one of them is going to be done at St. Peter's Basilica. They just released a video game, by the way, Indiana Jones, which is all about the underground cities and tombs underneath the Vatican. So now people are going, wait, there's an underground going on at the Vatican. And they like to tell you, well, of course there's an underground here. This is where we put the popes and put people and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a lot bigger and more intricate than you actually think. And of course, like I mentioned in the Bible and books like Ezekiel, there's visions of worship going on underground. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly why they have altars underneath these basilicas in Vatican City. They have I'm sure underground in churches in our towns or outside of our towns, but close by, they have this as well. So when you go to St. Peter's Basilica.info, you can see for yourself. If you click on the necropolis, you click on the map, you look at the names of the areas, you'll see under you, it says Lucifer. Right underneath it, Tomb 5, right above it, Lucifer's. It's clear as day that they're saying that there's a tomb of Lucifer. What's in the tomb? Your guess is as good as mine. Could Lucifer be in the tomb? Who knows at this point? I mean, my hair's literally turning white as we speak from all this insanity that is actually going on. But it's certainly worth noting that there's a tomb of Lucifer underneath St. Peter's Basilica, as well as the fact that the coat of arms for St. Peter's Basilica happens to have 3 Bs, which could only be interpreted as 666, being that bees use hexagons, and bees are only known for building honeycombs. Other than stinging you and irritating you with the bee sting, they're known for building honeycombs, right? And storing honey and pollen, because that's what bees do. And the hexagon is the symbol associated with the bee. And that symbol is a 6, so they could have easily put 4 bees on there, but they put 3 bees on there, or 1 bee. No, they put 3, and that's 666. You can even see some of the dragon imagery in that crest as well. And as I mentioned a couple of times, who is the newest mascot for the church? Well, it's Lucy. It's Lucy, right? Meet Lucy, the Vatican's cartoon mascot for 2025. So this ritual will be getting live streamed, and I highly recommend you don't turn it on. Whatever you do, look away. Don't go into the light because it's really darkness. I thank everybody for being here. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I thought this was one of the more just bizarre things that I've seen in quite some time, because obviously I don't study the tombs underneath the Vatican. I mean, there's enough stuff going on every single day to cover. It's endless. Once you wake up, it's endless. The awakening is endless. You never know too much, since we all spent 20, 30 years of our lives indoctrinated with nothing but lies, right? 20 years of our lives indoctrinated in lies, 30 years, some people 50, 60, they wake up. And really, I mean, I want to say nothing surprises me anymore, but some things like this do actually surprise me, how in our faces it all actually is. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.